What is going on, guys? It's your boy, Justin Pugh. Welcome back to Net Worth. This is the segment that I've been waiting for the most. I've had to endure the Cowboys fans, the Eagles fans, the Commanders fans actually have me laughing, so I can't even hate. They were comical at times, very comical. But I saved the best for last. I saved my New York Giants, my people, my family. I want to welcome my three guests onto the show. Adriana, she just kind of cut out there. She's in the airport. We'll get her back. LPG, who needs no introduction, and Bobby Skinner, who honestly has been one of the breaking down offensive line play. Bobby, I saw you the other day, at one of the events. I think it was a softball game. You might need to play offensive line for the Giants at some point. But some of the best fans, the best creators in the Giants ecosystem. Thank you guys for coming on the show. Let's talk Giants football.
Let's talk it. My feet are a little too slow for the Giants, so maybe last year I could have got it a couple guard reps, but that just last year, and that's it.
The Bills game.
Hands, Bobby. Got quick hands, Bobby.
Exactly. But yeah, let's talk about last year. Actually, first off, you guys want to do a little introduction of yourselves, kind of like the background. LPG, I got a couple questions for you on how you all got started, but how you guys got started as super fans of the team. Adriana, you go first.
So my grandfather was a season ticket holder all the way back, I think starting in the 70s. So my whole family is diehard Giants fans, ride or die with it till the end. My uncle went out to the Super Bowl in Pasadena and has some amazing stories from that. So I've always been a huge Giants fan because of that. And I moved to Connecticut recently after living in Massachusetts. I was excited to finally be back locally so I could watch the games on TV, go to the games. This was during COVID and during the worst Giants football that I have watched as a fan. And I just started an Instagram page being like, if I am in a group chat with my family members and we are all screaming about the Giants, I know that everyone else is doing the same thing. So for those of you who don't know, it's New York Giants Fangirl on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And I post all about the Giants on there, every single sort of update you can find. I wanted it all to be in one place because I'm always on Twitter researching, talking Giants and what LPG's posting, and then all of the beat writers. And I was like, I need this all under one roof. So I started that. I started a podcast about a year or so ago. It's called Everything New York Giants, and it just has been so great. And I'm so excited for this season.
All right, well, we're going to get into the Giants on Twitter here at the very end. Maybe we'll culminate with that. Bobby, why don't you take it off and how you kind of got started and where you guys are going now? Because when I came on your show, the reaction from your fan base was insane. The fans were as loyal as they come. They were commenting, liking, subscribing, basically blew my channel up the first time. So A, I appreciate it. And then B, a little bit of background to some of my followers.
Well, it's Talking Giants versus the world. So once you choose our side, our listeners, they have our back and they'll have your back. Basically just started doing podcasting as a hobby. And you mentioned the offensive line. So I played offensive line in college. So I had a little bit of a playing background. And then it just kind of slowly started getting built up, joined John Boy Media. And then whenever I was able to go full time is when it really started to take off because it allowed us to do so much more. And this is year 6 of Talking Giants. It's kind of crazy how fast it's been going, but the show is just Talking Giants. So we leave it in the name, which helps.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll throw all your guys' shows up on there. Make sure everyone's doing all the right things, the subscribes. I got to go with my guy, license plate guy last, Joe. No introduction needed. All you have to do is watch any Giants game. They're going to see you behind the scenes. Every time, the words of encouragement every time we come to the sidelines. Christmas Day in Philadelphia, I'm getting my coffee and run into you. I see you everywhere. How did this all start, and how has it grown throughout the year? Can you give us a little background?
Yeah, I mean, like A said, you're a Giants fan. It's born and bred into the family. If your aunt was, your grandmother, your grandfather, whoever was a Giants fan, you obviously had no choice but to be a Giants fan, or you got put up for adoption. And I'm sure, to be honest with you, I'm sure that's a lot of fan bases, that's born and bred into the family. That kind of changed when free agency entered into, sport. But, look, it started way back. I was 16 years old. Dad, dared me to wear my license plate to a game. They won. Giants fans very superstitious. I was warned that I better wear it the next week. I think they won again, 2 in a row. Ridiculous. Never happened before. And, the rest is history. I take a back seat to all these unbelievable content creators, and I'm just the one that goes to every game and every practice and everything else. So I'll be the one that's present, and I'll watch everybody talk about it.
And you do the jersey. Can we see the jersey real quick? Because you showed me a little bit before.
Yeah, this was back in the day.
Oh my! Come on now. I mean, dude,
actually your family has one of these. So I presented it in parking lot A to you many years ago.
No, I know, and then I know my brother got you. Didn't he get you a flag? Was that part of the trip?
Probably the greatest thing. I don't know if Bobby and Adriana know this story. So probably the greatest thing, one of the greatest things I've ever received in my life, let alone fandom. I think Justin had reached out to me and said, look, my brother's in town. He's in the armed forces, and, is there any way you can get him on the field? Now, look, it's not like I have a season pass to get on the field or I have some kind of an in, but sometimes, I can make the right connections, and we got him on the field because he wanted to see you, and you were shocked as anything to see him like on the field, and you guys hugged it out. And I think it escapes me when, but weeks later, your brother presented me with a real American flag that was flown over Afghanistan. And it was one of the proudest moments to get that. And it's in a frame and upstairs on my wall.
No, I love it. Shout out to my brother, Michael, repping our country. Thank him for his service. Thank you everyone out there for our service. But all right, besides the point, we got all heartfelt, get goosebumps, all those things. Let's go back to talking about the Giants and last year. There was a lot of hype going into the season. I remember the preseason last year. It was coming off the playoffs like, hey, this is our season to kind of assert our dominance in the NFC East. Things didn't start off the way the team wanted. It probably started out as poorly as it could have in that first game. Take me through this last year, and Bobby, we'll start with you on this one, of the hype leading into the season, kind of your reaction to the season, and how do you wipe the slate clean and move on to get ready for this season?
So, I mean, for last year, it was just devastating, right? Because even if you thought maybe that the Giants were a little overhyped going into the year, 40-0 is just like, oh my God, we're another year. Like, we thought about maybe closing the gap a little bit, and it's like, nope, it's been wide. And so going into this year, it's for the Giants, I actually think it's one of the lowest years the fan base has been in on the team, just because it's the first year 3 of a regime since Tom Coughlin back in the day, right? So there's no newness and freshness off a bad year, which we've been used to. And I think people are just kind of out on Daniel Jones, so they just don't see much excitement for the team this year. That being said, I do look at like all the stuff that went bad last year, and the fact that you guys were able to pull out 6 wins is just, it's nuts to think about, everything that, I mean, you got thrown into starting playing left tackle in your first game. You're supposed to be splitting series at guard in that game. Like, so many things went wrong, yet still being able to pull out 6 wins, it gives you some bit of hope. But yeah, people are low on the team right now.
All right, so morale might be a little low. Adriana, tell me about your thoughts going into the season. Now, obviously, we don't need to go back and beat a dead horse straight off the couch. I do want to bring up one guy. I will, and LPG, I'm going to tee it up for you here in a minute for our boy. But Adriana, how do you wipe the slate clean and move on? Are your expectations a little low going into the season?
Definitely. Last year, like I think everyone else, I went in with high expectations. I mean, I had them going 11-6. And like Bobby said, things happen, mostly injuries, but they were really only 3 plays away from winning 9 games. So I think the fact that they won 6 games was huge. They were close enough to win 9. That makes me feel optimistic that this team with more talent, Daboll calling plays, I feel like they should be a better team this year. And when I think you look at the facts of everything, I think it makes it a little bit easier to feel optimistic. But I am not as optimistic as I was last year because I was so wildly disappointed after the Cowboys game that I was like, I don't want to feel that again this year.
All right, so everyone's got a little bit of like pause optimism. Like, let's see what we got first. Minnesota Vikings coming in. They lose their quarterback, JJ McCarthy. So if there was a team to get Minnesota week one, it's not like Dallas was last year. But speaking of last year, Joe, I got to talk about it. It's your boy, Tommy DeVito. It's our boy, Syracuse, and he's not going to really rep Syracuse. He's more of an Illinois guy. How awesome was that experience, at least for the season? It was like there was something to look forward to every week with the Devito Mania, and I know you were very instrumental in staying close and getting Tommy out and connect to the fan base. How did you perceive last year going once Tommy, I had the little straight off the couch, it was a nice little moment. Then Tommy rolled in 2 weeks later, and like I haven't seen stardom like that since Odell Beckham, Linsanity. Like that, how do you feel about the DeVito Mania?
First of all, the other two guests are crazy. I'm unbelievably optimistic, baby. We got 14 wins on the horizon this year. I said the same crap last year. So, look, that Tommy DeVito stuff, that guy took, 15 minutes of fame and turned it into a few years now. And rightfully so. I don't really care what you think about him as a person. The guy got in there and did the job, when he was asked to do the job until he got benched in the second half in Philly. But to be honest with you, I enjoyed the Mania, what was going on. Maybe it got a little out of hand, all of the sauce commercial and the this and the that. And then, oh my God, his agent and all of that crap. But in a whole, the reason why it took off, Pugh, and I love that you compared it to Odell. I have the same type of feeling. Odell was getting crushed because his antics were being done on a losing team. If the antics were being done on a winning team, they'd be laughed at. They'd kind of be cheered. The Giant fans held on to stuff like the DeVito Mania because we had nothing else. So when you do have something like that, you just ride it. Look, I don't care who you are. If you thought DeVito was somehow going to take the Giants to the Super Bowl, you shouldn't be on this podcast. However, God, I wanted him to take the Giants to the Super Bowl. But it is what it is. I loved it, and he's still riding the wave. He's still here.
Oh, he's the 100%. Biggest star on the team now. Like at your softball game at training camp, it's like there's no. I've never seen a player where the difference between like online perception versus real life is wider. Like as a star, wherever he goes.
Yeah, Bobby. I love that you said on and off the field because he doesn't have that persona off the field. He is a quiet dude. He is a quiet dude, but on the field, I love what's going on. Hit the nail right on the head. He's
got that swagger, and that can only happen in New York with the New York media. And I guess we'll circle back to this because it's so relevant what happened with Josh Jacobs the last few days where he said he turned down a 15 or 16. Yeah, it's complete BS. But exactly. Playing in New York is a beast in and of itself. And Adriana, I'll let you take this one first. Do you think it takes and I know it, I kind of answered the question already. It takes a special type of player to deal with the New York media, but the pros just drastically outweigh the cons. If you're winning, there's no place like it in the world. Ask Eli Manning, ask Justin Tuck, ask Chris Snee. But we saw in Hard Knocks that Joe Shane went on this kind of meandering conversation about the quarterbacks and, hey, this is New York City. You're not in a city like Jacksonville. How do you feel the fan base reacts? And we'll get back to like how Twitter and how toxic the fan base can be at times. But how do you feel at being involved in the media and interacting, how the media plays a role in these players' careers?
It's crazy. I can't believe the role that they play because we saw it during training camp. Daniel Jones starts off, he has a rocky camp. As soon as one of the beat writers tweets out that, Daniel Jones is not looking so great, that's it, Drew Lock should be the starter. One potentially bad day at camp coming off an ACL injury, which everyone magically forgot about that he hasn't played football in 9 months. And all of a sudden it's, Drew Lock has to be the starter and we're never going to win a football game with Daniel Jones. I can't believe we signed him all this money. And then it never ends. So, and I was hesitant about Neighbors because I was worried about the personality and I loved Odunze. And now the more I see and hear from Neighbors, and I just feel like he's got that type of personality, like the Devito swagger, that if he is what we all think he's going to be, he's going to be a star. And I think this team is going to win a lot more games, and it's going to help turn the perception of the team around, which is what we so desperately need in the local media and the national media, because we get no respect from anyone.
Well, I think in the national media, everyone is talking about Malik Neighbors, and it's crazy that they unretired number one that's been retired for how many years, Joe?
90.
Do you think it's right or wrong to unretire a jersey where the guy's never played one snap? Like, that's a lot of pressure on this kid early.
That's a lot of pressure. I mean, look, I could care less, to be honest with you. Somebody, I had this argument with somebody and he said, okay, you're unretiring LTs. I'm like, hey, don't get crazy. So
that's best of all time. Like,
but it's still a retired number. So look, if you want to be, whatever camp you want to sit in, you want to be in a camp where, the guy really, didn't rush for that many yards, or he didn't score that many touchdowns, or, that happened to be the era where you retired numbers right away. I don't really care where you sit, because to each their own. It's okay. You want to go on social media and have that argument. Great. Have a healthy argument about it. But if the Giants and the family all agreed that the number will be used for Neighbors, then I'm all for it. Then I'm all for getting number one on a license plate. I'm ready to rock and roll it. Now, getting to what you said, though, that is a tremendous amount of pressure. I think he better perform not only on the field, but respectfully and professionally. I would have loved the Giants to have, not that the NFL will allow it, some kind of patch, with the number one retired or something with the years in it. I don't know. That'd be something cool, but, that's not going to fly with the NFL. I think the Giants should do it anyway and pay the fine every week, but that's just me. But I'm all for it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. There is a lot of pressure there, and there was so much drama about a jersey number. The one thing I just don't love to see is putting that kind of pressure on a young kid in a media situation like New York, because if something does happen, which he's going to have a game that he might drop a ball, they're automatically coming back to that right away. Like the national media is going to be all over it, but the sky is the limits for this young man. Someone that we've seen also deal with the media is Joe Shane. And I want to talk about Hard Knocks. I think Bobby dropped out. Hopefully he can get back in here. But the Hard Knocks episode, to me, in my opinion, was my favorite Hard Knocks of all time. Seeing the behind the scenes of how the team interacts, how they talk about the team, and the media, and I said this in my podcast, and I almost felt like the Giants knew the Saquon situation was going to get so bad and the public perception was going to be so ugly. They're like, let's get out in front of this and actually do a whole TV show talking about it. Adriana, what were your thoughts on the Hard Knocks? How do you think, because it really was like the Joe Shane show and kind of like a PR move, not move, but like it talked about Joe Shane and his family the entire time. What were your thoughts on it? And did you like the behind the scenes, seeing how the team talks about players, grades them, interviews them, etc.?
I loved it. I thought it was so fascinating. And I think whether you're a diehard fan like we are and are checking Twitter and updates 24/7, or you're just like a casual fan who just started following them, I think it's such a great way to fully understand the ins and outs of what goes on behind the scenes. Because prior to now, we've never known. We've never seen the conversations with John Mara. And one thing that I thought was really fascinating about Joe and John is there's been this whole misconception from fans that John Mara tells everyone what to do and no one's allowed to argue with him and he makes all the final calls. So I think when you really saw the Saquon situation play out between them and the way that John Mara was upset and knew how it was going to affect sales and things like that, that it was like, okay, is everyone paying attention? This is how things really go down behind the scenes. And, we hadn't seen a ton of Joe Shane up until that point. You see him in press conferences and whatever, but they're talking BS in the press conferences. They're not giving anything away. So to see the draft board and the way that they graded players with the different colors, I just thought it was fascinating and so cool that we got to see that behind the scenes look.
So when Joe Shane said that we're good at cornerback too, and then signs Adoree the next day, you weren't buying it when he said that?
I was laughing to myself because I was like, not a single person inside the building or outside the building feels great about the cornerback too. But what do you expect him to just say? He's going to sit there and say, "Oh, I drafted all of these guys, but I don't feel good about any of them being a starter besides Banks."
No, what I will say though is in New York, and I found this out last year, if you're upfront and honest with the fans, you play like shit. Hey, I had a bad game. Hey, I played well. Go out and like either way, facing the music in New York is the best way because the fans are all, we know if you had a good game or bad game. Trying to deflect and trying to move the blame. I think if every person in the Giants organization looked into the camera or looked into the reporter's eyes and said, hey, I'm doing my job good. I'm not doing it well. And if I don't do it well, I'll be fired. We can all live easier because that's what I told people when I came in. If I'm not the best left guard for this team, put the best left guard in. I'll go to the bench. Let's put the best 11 out on the field.
Yeah, don't hide behind, I hurt my ankle in the third. Don't hide behind anything like that. You hit the nail on the head, Justin. Don't hide behind anything, especially in New York. Get in front of it, and that's it. And going to what Ace said, I was mesmerized by Soft Knocks. I thought it was great. I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was the Giants' turn. They were going to have to do it anyway, whether it was this kind of soft hard knocks or hard knocks in itself. And they got the best of the best. They were able to have the last say. But I was absolutely mesmerized with what we got to see, and I loved it. And when you watch hard knocks like that with your team, it's really cool to see. I mean, I remember when Hard Knocks started, or you guys, how many of you liked, the Dallas players? That you might as well rip my heart out that I was actually watching something with Dallas on. I was liking them. I had to shut it off. So I really enjoyed it. And, I hope they get to do something like that again.
It really changed the tone for business of football. And for a guy that loves the contracts and how they're negotiated, it was great for me. I feel like a lot of it was done because of the Saquon situation. And Bobby, I'm glad you're back because I'm teeing you up for this one. What is your take on Hard Knocks and how the whole Saquon situation went down? Because for a while there, that's all anyone talked about in the football world was Saquon and Joe Shane and how they treated Saquon or how Saquon wanted to get paid. Give me your take on the whole, drama.
Well, first, I want to say Joe said he hopes it's back or, hopes he sees again. We won't see that for another 20 years after all the shit they showed.
I bet if
teams are going to be signing up for training camp version after that. I think in reality, Shane never really wanted to keep Saquon. And then they won in 2022. And it's like, okay, well, I can't not bring this guy back. They made an offer that they thought he would jump out at the bye week, and he didn't. So they kind of secretly wanted him to be on the franchise tag all of last offseason. And everyone who knows Saquon Barkley knew that he wasn't missing a single game. Me and Joe would talk about that. It's like, people think that there's any chance of a lockout happening and do not know Saquon Barkley. He cannot deal with that backlash. And you saw he didn't even miss report day for training camp before he signed a contract. So I think with Saquon's injuries, Saquon's age, and the whole running back argument, I don't think Shane ever wanted to keep Saquon Barkley, even though Saquon Barkley did want to stay. And it played out that a team gave him an offer that he could go to the owner and say, hey, we can't reasonably match this. But I know it was tough for Shane because John Mayer wanted to keep Saquon Barkley and Saquon meant so much to him. And also in a different, I'm not there's people who are just I'll never pay a running back ever. I disagree with that for the most part. I disagree with that. But with Saquon, with the age getting up there and his injury history, I felt like it made sense for the Giants. And they weren't getting good rushing production. I mean, he had to average less than 4 yards per carry. Why would you invest in that position to get that amount of production, even though it wasn't his fault? I think that's where Shane stood. It was like, we kind of need to reset with this.
Exactly. Well, that's why we wanted to give $16 million to Josh Jacobs. Let's go.
Exactly. Well, Tim McDonald says it. What's the identity of the team? LPG. What the identity is now? Daniel Jones throwing to Malik Neighbors. That's the identity of. We're a passing team now.
Well, you have no choice but to be that combo right there. I mean, look, I'm sure later in this we're going to get to, who might be the secret weapon and what the Giants are going to do and who's your favorite player on O&D. I think, to be honest with you, that's the offensive side, Justin. I agree with you that the identity is all about is going to circle around Daniel Jones and what's going to be in 2025. But right now, that's the identity. But I think the real identity is getting back to Giants defense, if you want to know the truth, because, you go out there and obviously we're going to get into this and you sign Burns and, good luck. The best person that's going to, get all the medals from this is probably Thibodeau in my eyes. So you sign Burns, you're going to have to block him. You're going to have to block Thibodeau. I don't know how you're blocking Dex. So I really believe that it's defense. And, I'm waiting to see my man Banks hold it down on one side because he's the key to the defense, in my opinion. And I think the Giants are back to defensive side of the ball.
And we'll hop into that because there's one last guy that's a key to this, and that's Daboll. That's the head coach. And people are saying Daboll's on the hot seat. And I was just appalled because, hey, he takes the playoffs year one. Year two, there was a lot of games we had no business being in, and Daboll schemed it up and was just getting this team rolling. I've never been in an offensive meeting where I've seen a head coach know receiver to center and all the rules, all the responsibilities as good as Daboll does. Adriana, I'll give this one to you. Where do you think Daboll sits in your mind? Is he on the hot seat, or is he, he's at least earned the right to go out there and have a few more years?
I think, no question, they are going to let him draft his own quarterback. I think regardless of what happens with Jones this year, even if he has a great year, they could still release him. So I think that it's his first year calling plays. Like you said, took us to the playoffs the first year. Last year, he could only control so much when all of the injuries went down. He could only do so much, and yet we still won games and came this close to winning 9 with our third string quarterback. So I think he should absolutely not be on the hot seat. He deserves more time. And, when people talk about getting rid of Joe Schoen and Daboll, I'm like, they gave Gettleman 4 years. Joe Schoen should at least have 4 years for the amount of work that he had to do to try and recoup this roster and salary cap.
No, it's a great point. And it really does. A lot of this hinges on Daniel Jones. So I'm going to give us all a chance to talk about it because bearded Daniel Jones, man, he's been making some throws out there. He's getting his feet back up under him. Bobby, what's your take on this quarterback? I mean, now we're seeing what top quarterbacks are making. It's going to cost 60, maybe $65 million next year. If the Giants have to go one of two ways, in my opinion, this year. Go win games and make the playoffs, or win 2 or 3 and get one of those top quarterbacks. So you can't have another year in the middle. Bobby, what is your take on Daniel Jones and how? And I guess based on the confidence you said earlier, I don't know where you're going to lie, but how do you feel about the whole Daniel Jones dilemma?
We just did, we do our player profiles series every year for training camp, and we just, we finish off with the quarterback every time. So Daniel Jones was the most recent one. So, you really weren't there for any Daniel Jones play except for a little bit versus Las Vegas. And obviously that was a rough outing before he got injured. In 2022, he played like pretty flawless football. Like you pop on the film and there just wasn't mistakes made, but they weren't asking a ton. Their only speed threat was Darius Slayton. So they weren't putting a lot on the plate as far as downfield, you're really, really trying to push the ball, even, in that middle area of the field. They just weren't really doing that. But there was some stuff there that you're like, did leave this on the table, but it wasn't a lot. I feel like last year, even through all the mess that was there, with the offensive line and stuff, there were guys there, right? They did try to become more explosive with Hyatt and Slayton and Darren Waller. And even though I don't think he's anywhere near as bad as what he looked like last year, I do think he answers some questions on being an inherently conservative QB. And we're going to see early because Daboll is building this offense around the wide receivers of Neighbors, Hyatt, Slayton, and Wandale. Mm-hmm. And we saw it in training camp. We've seen it in preseason. There is an emphasis to push this ball down the field. And so Jones is going to do it more. The question is, will he deliver on that? Will there be consequences of more turnovers? But I hate to say it, but I am at the point where I want a new quarterback, right? Until Daniel Jones shows me things he hasn't really shown me. But obviously for this year, he's their best option, and I'm hoping to win some games.
I'm glad they didn't reach. I'm glad they didn't mortgage the future to go out.
I didn't want McCarthy. Jones under contract. I wasn't like QB, but I didn't want McCarthy. I wanted Drake May. I would have taken a chance on Jaden Daniels, but I also don't believe in reaching. Like, build the roster until you can find that quarterback you truly believe in.
LPG, what's a successful season look like for Daniel Jones, and how has he continue to be the quarterback of the New York Giants?
by not staying in the middle of the pack, like you said. You just can't continue to go year after year and, not get it done or unfortunately end it with an injury. I did want a quarterback as well, but our eggs are in Daniel Jones' basket. And, as a Giant fan and every Giant fan should support him. I don't care whether you hate his guts. I don't care whether you want him off the team right now. He's the quarterback of the New York Football Giants. And not supporting him is ludicrous to me. You don't put whoever you want under center. Get your butt off the couch and go be the quarterback, and you'll have my full support as well. Daniel Jones has got to deliver, Justin. He's got to get back to, playoffs. He really does. Got to go back and whip some Minnesota butt. And, we all knew what was going to happen the next week in Philly, or at least, cautiously optimistic. People were thinking a little different, but he needs to get back to there because year after year after year, we're having the same conversation on podcasts. It's not good. It's not.
Joe,
it's
I'm
not
really
healthy.
intrigued to see exactly just what he looks like. Because one, we've never seen him come off of an ACL and a neck at the same time, right? So what are we going to see coming off of that? We're also going to see a different type of offense, right? They're not going to try and run the same exact stuff they've ran the past couple of years. And as bad as last year was, right? Like this has been my saving grace on Jones is that, like, even though I said I've gotten some answers that I didn't have before the season on last year's play, I only think him playing to his potential changed one game. I think really the Seahawks game was the only game where if he played up to his potential, they win that game. They weren't beating Dallas. They weren't beating San Francisco. Miami, he actually played well in that game. It's just things didn't really go their way. So the hope is that, hey, maybe if he can play closer to that potential, they can win some games this year.
Yeah, I agree. Moving the ball down the field, a different type of Jones. You're right. Let's see. And what do you mean you don't know what you're going to see? He's got a beard.
Exactly. That's the third unknown. We haven't seen him without the beard consistently.
Exactly. Adriana, what's your take? You're online defending Daniel Jones. What are you saying back to these Cowboys, Commanders, and Eagles fans?
Listen, in 2022, he had 5 game-winning drives. He was one of the only quarterbacks in football history who had 700 rushing yards, 7 rushing touchdowns and 3,200 passing, whatever it was that year. And he's won a playoff game. He won the Giants the first playoff game in a decade. And he had no wide receivers, a minimal running game, and an okay offensive line. So this year, when we've got good running back room, we've got really strong wide receivers, and we've got a way better offensive line than what we had last year, there's no excuse for anyone. So
I'm sitting right here. I'm sitting down. Man, I take shots from every. It's tough, man. It's tough, but you know what? It's all right. It's all right. I will continue after the burn. Speaking of the offensive line improving, I will say, I know the guys they brought in. John Runyon Jr., Jermaine Illuminor, Greg Van Roten. That was kind of that vet spot that I was eyeing up there for a little bit. But bringing in that offensive line, revamping it. Evan Neal now is going to be going to the bench and coming off the bench, taking that pressure off of him. Bobby, I know we'll kick it to you, the O lineman and the film junkie in the crew. How are you feeling about the offensive line through preseason? We talked about all the money that was spent at that position. For a guy coming off ACL and a neck, you got to feel good about where the depth is.
Yeah, well, first I'll start with Andrew Thomas, and Joe knows this. He's been my saving grace through these last 5 years of the Giants. Is like I can just watch him. Like I remember that Bears game when Mike Glennon started, Joe, and I was like, I'm just gonna watch Andrew. I'm not even paying attention to the other 10 guys on the field. And Pugh, while I have you, I want to ask you a question too before I talk about the offensive line. I'm going to ask you, why is Josh Ezeudu just not like in play at guard at all, as someone who is always viewed as like a project at that spot?
Guys, I got to run. Thank you. Sorry, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I have to run so I don't miss my flight.
All right. You just got to get back up to New York to come support the team. Adriana, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. Go Giants.
There we go. All right. Well, she's hopping out here. We'll wait for her to get off, and then we'll go back to that one. So what I will say about Josh Ezeudu, you watch Josh Ezeudu's film, and I will tell you, or his feet. I'm sorry, not his film. If you watch Josh Ezeudu's feet, He has the best feet I've ever seen from an offensive lineman. He moves better. If you actually lined Josh up and Evan Neal, I would have told you that Josh Ezeudu was the first round draft pick because Josh's feet are that good. He has all the intangibles. Whatever is going on with Josh, some injury history, some things of that nature, that is what's holding him back right now. That's the only thing that I can come up with because skill set wise, Josh has everything you need to succeed at a high level. I think his confidence got drastically hurt. Him and Evan Neal. I think both those guys, it's confidence that is hurting both.
Tackle is a confidence position. And like you said, his feet are extremely quick. Why don't they have him working? Because that's where he was drafted the day after they drafted Evan Neal. So ideally, they had Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal as their tackles. So he was always like a developmental guy. Why have they just given up on him at guard completely? Because he doesn't really have a path to playing.
Guard's a totally different position. Guard's such a physical position. It's like a car crash every single play. And tackle is like playing one-on-one defense against, the best, Michael Jordan. You have to have great feet, great balance. You have to be able to recover because it's not always going to look pretty. So clearly with what's going on with Josh is the physicality part of playing guard that probably maybe doesn't suit his game the best. That's why, in my opinion, and the Giants have come out and said they're not doing this, is why I think Evan Neal will be a stud at guard. I really think I would have slotted Evan Neal at left guard going into the season, but
same, and they're not going to do it.
And that is tough in my opinion. I've been around. Look, I play with a guy Eric Flowers who struggled to athletically compete at left tackle in the NFL. Went to guard and made a hell of a career. Made a bunch of money playing guard. Yeah. So back to Josh, I think he has all the pieces. I think it's playing in New York is very tough from an offensive line perspective in terms of confidence. Because if you struggle early, the city and the media will chew you up and spit you out, and you may never recover. You're going to see if Evan Neal doesn't pan out with the New York Giants. I guarantee he goes and starts somewhere else at guard and actually gets paid.
About the starters, it's been a rough go. So it's like, I actually feel good. Like Jermaine Elmanor, that's a good right tackle option, right? He's been a solid right tackle. Yeah. John Runyon and Greg Van Roten, neither making all pros or anything, but that's a solid guard duo. And then they invested a second rounder in JMS, who I really like coming out of Minnesota. And I actually think JMS's play kind of got worse throughout the year. Like earlier year, you saw him flash some good stuff, and it felt like teams caught on to him a little bit, like timing up his punch and stuff. But I feel good about it, but I feel weird saying that until they actually start playing good in the regular season games.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the Giants' offensive line has always been a point of contention because they were so consistent. I posted a clip of Snee, Kareem, Richie Soybert, Dave Deal, David Boss, and like just a bunch of maulers running the ball. The league has completely changed. It's a pass-happy league. We want to throw the ball. LPG, you've seen it all. You've been, you've seen those great offensive lines. You know who really helps an offensive line? An amazing defensive line, and you touched on it. I want you to sing the praises of this defensive line because that's what the New York Giants are built on. And we go out and trade for Brian Burns the same day Saquon leaves. It's almost like Joe Shane had this bullet in the chamber for when that bad press hit for Saquon. He had amazing news that we're getting the top-notch rusher in Brian Burns. Give me your thoughts on Burns and what that defensive line looks like this year.
Yeah, that was an amazing pickup to get Burns. And like I said before, first of all, going back to what you said about the offensive line, that could you imagine the names that you just threw out there? That was the last time the Giants won the division.
Those are my football heroes, that five.
You're right.
I mean, look, I can tell you exactly what happened there.
It's disgusting.
Jerry Reese fell on, like, I have these guys. They're not going anywhere. And they all got hurt in 1 year, my rookie season, and they were all gone after 1 year. So instead of replacing one by one, you had all five leave the building right away. And it was like, well, now what do we do? And the guys that we had on the roster at the time just didn't pan out. I mean, there's names that were drafted, and they didn't invest a lot of high draft picks until they took me, Weston Richburg, then Eric Flowers. But it was almost like we were trying to fill a waterfall with just like putting like one little plug. Like we needed fixing it right now. And that's where everything went off course. And that really set the franchise back. That we didn't have a replacement for those guys for Eli's last few years. In the NFL.
It wasn't only drafting. We missed on free agents. You're going to pick up a shoulder, you're going to pick up all these, and you're you just waste money. You have to nail a couple of free agents. You know, you don't always have to go through the draft to get those linemen, obviously, with some of the names you said. And I don't know, it's just disgusting when you said that. And I'm like, wow, that's the last time they won the division. And it just hit me hard. Getting back to the happy news of Burns.
Yeah.
The pickup is incredible. You know, it's funny. I heard, you know, all throughout camp, and Bobby could attest to this, unblockable. And then it flashed, you know, to last year when it was Waller, unguardable. So I'm done with all of the hype that you get in camp. But I think defense is completely different than an offensive tackle or a tight end getting open down, you know, all down the field or in the middle, especially when he's facing the Giants secondary last year, unguardable. But Burns opens up a tremendous amount of options for the Giants, especially with the new defensive coordinator scheme. So Bobby Okereke is going to get 1 million tackles. You're going to have to double team Gex. Burns is going to have people. The running back is going to have to move over. Thibodeau is going to be, you know, 1-on-1, who I think is going to get the most amount of accolades from the Burns signing, if not Burns himself. I think it was a fantastic pickup, and I'm ready to see him just go crazy.
So the question then goes to D-line depth. And Bobby, what do you think about the depth of the D-line? Because once Dexter Lawrence, I played him when I was with the Cardinals coming back to play the Giants a few years ago. And, you know, a big, strong, but he wasn't what he has become in the last 2-3 years. He is now the best nose guard. He is a unicorn at the position. No one gets as many pressures as Dex. He's knocking players out of games. He's unblockable. It's a guy that you have to like say, hey, Dex, just come to the sideline and practice because you're blowing everything up when we can't practice. Him and Burns. But when him, Burns, and Thibodeau go off the field, who are some of the guys that you're looking forward to seeing that can step up? Because that is what makes a great defense. That is what won the Giants Super Bowls, having a hockey line shift of dogs that come in constantly.
Unfortunately, I don't think they have it, right? And I know they like Elijah Chapman, the SMU kid, but like he's more of like a third down guy. They're kind of set on third down with Dex, Kayvon, and Burns. And I think you could even throw Z's out there here and there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Z's, man, because he was very weird, right? Because year one, it was some good production for a rookie. Wanted to be more consistency. Year two, he was injured, but every time he was on the field, he was a difference maker, creating turnovers. I think they averaged like 4 sacks per game when he was in the lineup versus like 1.5 without him. And then last year, even though he was banged up, just the play, it was like the worst of his career. If they can get him where when they're taking Kayvon and Burns off the field and have someone of, you know, play to his capability, that could be something special. The defensive tackle group, I would be just worried on putting run defenders on the field next to Dexter Lawrence because Kayvon and Burns aren't the best edge setters in the world. And you're getting enough pass rush production out of those 3 guys. So I would like to see the Nachos and the DJ Davidsons take the majority of those snaps.
No, it's a great point. And when you have a great defensive line, it takes a lot of pressure off the back half. LPG, you mentioned Bobby Okereke. I want to give him a huge shout out. I think he is a guy that they should have restructured because I know he's going to be around forever to free up more cap space. They'll get a deal done. Like he'll be a Giant for life. He is the truest captain. But I want to go to the secondary, which has been a lot of talk. Typically, when you have a great defensive line, you don't really need to worry about your secondary because these guys are getting home. People have been talking a lot about the Giants secondary. Give me your thoughts on that. Opposite of Deontay Banks, we just brought in Adoree Jackson. How do we feel about the defensive backs?
Yeah, that made the most amount of sense, by the way, the Adoree Jackson signing. I mean, he's jobless. Giants needed a cornerback. I think there was just a matter of time before those two, you know, match made in heaven. Maybe Adoree was like, look, I don't feel like going to training camp. So yeah. That was going to happen.
I get that.
Yeah, I think any veteran is going to get that. So that made the most amount of sense. But I said it before and I'll say it again. I think the Giants will go as far in the secondary as Banks takes them. If Banks could go live on an island, which I believe he can, it's going to free up a lot of space. Look, the writing was on the wall, you know, for Darnay Holmes. I think I was surprised that they signed him for another year. I think Drew Phillips, who obviously we didn't get to see a ton, is going to shore up that spot. I don't think it's going to be Flott. So that's where I'm going. And I think the Giants are going to get their money's worth with Newman. I don't think that the signing from the Packers. So I don't really think that, and Pinnock, obviously. I didn't think that the Giants are in such a horrible shape as it's been portrayed, the last couple of weeks, but I guess we'll see.
The Adore move is huge.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. And
the Adore move's huge because
Oh,
that was getting ready to be a pick on spot, right? Like teams like, all right, pick on that side, pick on that side. Like as much I like McLeod too, but I think if he started every week, he would be like, all right, let's just hit him with hitches and stuff like that. Adore being there huge. Now the biggest question I think is really Deontay Banks. Like I don't have any questions about Newman. I think he's gonna play really well. There's a different.
has he been named the starter? Is he
Adore?
100% the starter? Or no.
Yeah.
Newman.
Not officially, but they started putting him with the first team. They didn't draft him to not start. It's just Banks, man. It's you can look like you belong all you want. Covering wide receiver ones week in, week out in the NFL, man. It's fucking tough, dude.
We're gonna find out week one real quick, Bobby.
Week one, I actually give him a pass just because I think Jefferson's the best receiver in the game. But man, it's just he got a little taste of it last year, right? With Garrett Wilson, McLaurin, a little bit of Devontae Adams in Las Vegas, and that's when you saw him give up some plays. It's just tough, man. And he doesn't look like a bust or someone who doesn't belong, but there's just a difference between being a guy who can cover those wide receiver ones and a guy who could be a good starter.
No, I agree. And what I want to go back to with the D-line, I think the Giants revolutionized the D-line position. I mean, you can go back as far as LT, but the Giants were the first time to put like 4 defensive ends on the field in those Super Bowl runs. And then what did every team do in the NFC East? They all went and built up their defensive line. The Eagles, through the last 10 years, have probably had the best, if not one of the best. The Commanders, formerly the Redskins, they did that for all those years, going drafting Chase Young, DeMontez Sweat, Payne, Jonathan Allen, and the Cowboys addressed it. Everyone in the NFC stole the formula, and the Giants seemed to get away with that. So I'm glad. I think the way the Giants win and the way you win in the NFC East is with defensive line. So I'm glad we're finally addressing that position, which takes me to a key trade we made last season, letting Leonard Williams walk out the door. We don't talk about that enough, but I imagine if he was on this defense right now, how much we'd be talking about him. Who do you block? You have to double Dex, you have to double Burns. Leonard Williams and Tibbs would both have double-digit sacks.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think about that 2022 year where Kayvon, was just starting to get his feet wet. You had Aziz who was playing pretty well, and then Leonard Williams. Imagine that upgrade from Kayvon to his next level of player, and then Aziz to Burns is pretty big wide margin. That would be pretty marginal. I still can't believe they got a second fifth for an expiring contract.
Yeah. Well, we got turn, which amounted to who, Bobby?
Brian Burns, right? So it was kind of unless the Giants wanted to go crazy all in, it felt like Leonard's time was done. So but yeah, that would be a nasty four. But that's where I'm like, build a strength, right? Like this is something I can't stand with drafting. Where it's like, all right, well, we got these holes, plug. No. Or that kid in Tampa, Cansey, right? I wanted him a year ago, and people were like, well, we have Dex, Leonard Williams, Ashawn. I'm like, stop. Shit changes quick in the NFL. Draft defensive lineman, right? I don't care if it's not a need right now. It'll be a need in a year or two. And how sick would he be to have on this line right now?
If I was building a team, I would have 8 starting defensive linemen. They'd have their own locker room. Nobody could talk to them. I'd bring in veteran offensive linemen who know how to pick up games and can convert on third down. I wouldn't pay quarterbacks more than 17% of the cap, but I would have the best defensive line. And I would go right now, I would go to Aaron Donald and be like, whatever you want, I'll give you whatever you want to come back and play. I'll give you $40 million a year and just blow the cap up completely because D-line wins games. I truly believe that. That pains me.
And that's what Dallas did. Like the Dallas's defense has been so consistent. Like you mentioned, they've done that, right? Like Dan Quinn left to Washington. His backups are now his starters in Washington, right? He's like, oh, well, I know you guys are good. I can get you for cheap. You haven't been starting. It's just, like you said, man, it's just like a few years ago, there was this whole like coverage versus pass rush thing because coverage, I think, helps you get, by on a week to week basis. But man, when the playoffs start mattering, pass rush is what wins. Can you get there with 4? It's something that just triumphs. And, we've seen it for Giants Super Bowls, and you've seen it with other teams too.
Right, exactly. We've seen it with all 4. Unfortunately, the Giants went to one side of the field, and you can't. You got to have it all.
You got to have it all. All right, so I'm going to do a couple more additions and subtractions real quick. How do we feel about Wink leaving? Wink Martindale, defensive coordinator, that was drama. There's been some drama this offseason. We bring in Shane Bowden. How do we feel about that?
How well did they hide that shit from you guys?
They weren't like sitting down having lunch together, but I didn't think it was as bad as it was. The reports that came out, I would never have guessed that. So I don't think they were best friends, but I never really see head coach and D coordinator sitting and having a cup of coffee in the morning. So towards the end of the year, maybe you felt like there was some tension, but never to the point of like, I'm leaving and walking out and not coming back. It was that was the first time I've ever seen a coach get on a flight and say, I'm not coaching. Get rid of my contract.
We got the leaks. Fans got leaks about coach on coach. But, and in the end, there was a lot of players that were happy to see him go, which I didn't think was, I didn't think that was going on. But in the end, I guess the right thing happened.
And I should have said Shane Bowen, not Shane Bowen. I said Bowden.
Well, Bowen's going to put it in we've talked about pass rush. Bowen's going to put it in the hands of the pass rush up front, right? It's going to be a little more, hey, if you want to jump inside on a play, do it. Just you better win. So it's going to be up to them. Now, I don't think this defense is loaded from top to bottom, so it's going to be not the best thing. But his defenses have stayed top half of the NFL in scoring every year. They've been good run defenses. That's the thing I'm most intrigued to see how the run defense is, because when Wink came over to the Giants, his run defense was number 1, and then the Giants were bottom 3 the next year. So that's the thing I'm watching closely is how are they structuring the run defense?
So then is it more Jimmy's and Joe's and not about coaches as much? Like everyone wants to talk about.
There's only so many coverages you can work.
If you got dogs, it's like they can make up for a lot of mistakes.
Isn't that true? That's in any sport, man. You got the dogs. It's personnel.
How lucky is Bill Belichick, right? He goes from Lawrence Taylor, the best ever to play defense, who helps him get a head coaching job, to then getting Tom Brady, the best of all time on offense. Don't get me wrong, Bill Belichick's an unbelievable coach, but it really helps when you have those two guys that you can trot out there on either side of the ball. Speaking of coaches we added, Carm Brasillo comes in on the offensive line. Is that a sneaky hire that we're loving? I love OG. I think he caught a lot of slack for some players not playing well. So I don't think it's all Bobby Johnson's fault. He clearly got a job, can still do it. But how do we feel about
It's hard to judge
Brasillo?
Position coaches, especially with O-line coaches, because every guy has been the hero for the last 10 years as they change guys every year. Because it's like, position coaches can't, look at, everyone, Brasillo's going to fix Neil. I know they barely got any time to work together, but, Neil gives up a sack on his 10th play back versus, the Jets' third stringers. It's hard for me to judge position coaches. The way I was able to judge Bobby Johnson was Tyree Phillips went to Philly and came back a better player. That's the one way I can look at Bobby Johnson. There's something I can point to.
Yeah, look, I will say this. Players matter a lot and how players work together with one another. And that's why I love the Greg Van Roten signing, because that's the role that I played on the team last year. He's a guy that's going to bring the offenses together. He knows how to win. He knows how to pick up games together. And that's guys communicating live on the ball. No one can coach that up. No one can change that. You can give me technique and philosophy, but it takes 5 guys coming together to really make that happen. So the JVR, I think sneakily was probably one of the best signings they could have made, because he can play center, so can run you, which is great to have that flexibility. But then he also brings that veteran presence. That is what the O-line was missing last year and what I brought to the table. It was probably more important than my play on the field.
Straight off the podcast.
Straight off the podcast, baby. All right, so let's do this. I got a couple questions that I want to hit us with, and then we're going to jump right into let's just call wins and losses for the team this year. Do we think Neighbors wins Rookie of the Year?
No, because if a quarterback does just above average, he wins it, and I think Caleb does it. But
Caleb's got some talent down there too.
One of the most propped up QBs, and we've never seen a number one pick be put into this type of situation either.
Yeah, I don't think he wins it either. It could be because of personnel.
I also think Marvin Harrison's going to ball too in Arizona, but I think he'll be top 3, 4, like pretty easy. Like I think he's getting 1,000, no doubt.
Junior.
Hey, we'll see, man. I'm out here in Arizona. There's a lot of hype, and Kyler Murray is feeling very confident. So
I would too.
I think Marvin Harrison is going to get fed the rock, and they got this tight end, Trey McBride, who's great. Arizona's offense is going to ball. All right, give me 2 sleepers. Each one of you, give me a sleeper that maybe a guy we're not talking about as much. Bobby, you alluded to one of the D linemen, but if anyone else, offensive, defense, special teams, maybe we're giving them a little bit of love right now. Who do you think is the X factor for the team this year?
I know who Bobby's going with. I know Bobby's going with number 1.
Who do you think I'm going with?
TJ.
Who? Oh, Theo
Johnson. Yep.
I love Theo. I just worry about him coming in day 1 and being asked to be a starter.
Day 1.
That probably would be my number 1. You know what's an X factor? It's Darius Slayton. Is he going to be the starter over Hyatt? Right? Or I guess that could be Hyatt as the X factor because Hyatt, like, he needs to find his role. But it's every single year we try and figure out a way to get Slayton off the field, and he finds himself on the way field. And like we talk about, Neighbors and himself. Guess who gets to be wide receiver 2 finally? Darius Slayton. Yeah. So I think he's gonna find his way back on. Like I just think he's better than Hyatt, right? And I know there's all this hype for Hyatt and his speed, but remember, like let's look at both of their rookie years. Slayton was undoubtedly the better rookie than Jalen Hyatt was. It's just like that speed and that SEC, Tennessee hype that kind of comes with Hyatt. So I think Slayton's a big X factor. Like how
Slayton always produces too. Like no matter what, you threw that ball up to him, but Hyatt makes some great catches too. So really it'll be an iron sharpens iron type of
I think the X factor is whoever gets the more snaps there at that spot.
Okay. LPG?
Yeah, look, I'm sticking with Banks as my X factor again. I really want to see him hold it down. I don't want to talk about him a lot during the season, which means that he's just doing his job. And I'm definitely going Theo Johnson on the offensive side of the ball. I'm never gonna, the running back position is gonna be some kind of a committee. Unless Singletary just, whatever. I'd like to see Tracy a lot more, but I'm gonna stick with Johnson on the front. And I think day 1 he's gonna take off and do a darn good job.
JMS is another one too. Because then if he can, I really believe in JMS. Me too. I think he's, you played next to him, so you could tell me better than I do. But I really believe in JMS. When we talk about the offensive line, like that's 5 right there. Like having 5 that you feel good with, that's a luxury that a handful of teams in the NFL have.
Well, we didn't.
No, I love that. No, I love that. JMS is a true leader. I'll tell you guys a funny JMS story, and people will get a kick out of this. I showed up last year, straight off the couch, weighing about 280, getting ready to go into the building. And I walked in, and guys thought I was like an assistant strength coach. Like, because when you lose some weight as an offensive lineman, you still got some muscle. So, I looked pretty yoked up out there. A little pat on the back, a little humble brag. I walk into the training room, and JMS comes up to me. He's a rookie. I've been playing 11 years. I started like 120 some games at this point. JMS like, make sure you're at meetings on time. Like, I think he thought I was a practice squad offensive lineman. So he's like yelling at me. He's like, yo, make sure you're at meetings on time. They're at 8:00. And I'm looking at this kid like, what the did he just say to me? And I get to meetings. JMS showed up a few minutes late. And for the rest of the year, I gave JMS so much shit. But he came to be like my little brother, man. He is doing an unbelievable job. I made him go get bagels every Friday for the team. But he is taking that leadership role because he's very vocal. He's a vocal leader. Andrew Thomas is a production leader. Andrew Thomas leads by the way he works. Andrew Thomas is a lot quieter than I would have thought. JMS is more of that vocal guy, and that's why my X factor is JVR. Greg Van Roten comes in. He's that veteran presence. I think he's a guy that's going to help solidify that offensive line. And then on defense, I'm going Kayvon Thibodeau. Kayvon Thibodeau makes or breaks this defense this year. If he eats when Dexter Lawrence is getting double teamed, Burns is getting chipped, that is the X factor that will put this defense over the edge. And Yeah, those are my offense and defense. Some names that you might not think. And, I got to give a shout out to the vet.
Hey,
guard.
hold on.
This is what we're
created
gonna do.
a great prank for the NFL locker room. Like whenever a team signs a vet, have the rookie at that position go and tell him the better. Like they should be telling Drew Phillips to go up to Adore tomorrow and be like, make sure you show up on fucking time, buddy.
Hey, Adore, you can't have this number, pal. I don't know. You're not coming in here and taking my number. I love it. JMS, I love you, man.
Adore's definitely going to be late, though, Bobby, so it doesn't matter.
All right, guys. This is my favorite part because we're going to go a little quick fire. I don't want to spend all day doing this because we could talk about these matchups forever and jump into them. I just want to know win, loss. This is what everyone wants to know. This is what everyone's doing at home right now. I'm going to give you guys the team. We're going to go through it. We're all going to say what we think. And we're starting off with the playoff rematch. The Minnesota Vikings lost their quarterback. What do we think about Minnesota at MetLife week 1? LPG, I'll go with you first, then Bobby. We'll just always go in that order, and then I'll go last, and we'll roll.
Yeah, I'm shocked that the Giants are opening up, as an underdog. I'm going with a win right there.
Win. You got to win. Can't lose week 1. Give me something to have delusion on.
This is a must win. I never thought you'd say must win. This is a must win game to set the tone of like, we're back. I think that the defense is going to get after the Vikings offensive line. Christian Darisaul's dog, but yeah, win. Week 2 at Washington.
Joe.
Win.
Joe.
Yeah, Daniel Jones owns Washington. I don't believe in really what
they said. That the Commanders fans are heated.
I don't really believe in what they're building over there. Their secondaries are where their offensive line might be brutal. That's a win.
Yeah, let's go.
Win all day. I had to tell the Commanders, I said, yo, Giants are sweeping you guys this year. But I will say, Jaden Daniels, I think, is going to be a dog in this league. But not just yet. Not yet. We're not there. All right, we start out 2-0. We go to Cleveland.
Win.
I like where Joe's going.
Cleveland has some, it sounds funny, but dogs, real dogs.
Real dogs. No, Myles Garrett. I mean, luckily we have Andrew Thomas.
Yeah. I'm going. Giants are starting 3-0.
That defense is so nasty. I fell in love with it last year. I gotta go out.
I'm going loss here too. From a cap perspective, the Browns spend $50 million more a year than any other team in the NFL.
Dog.
Jimmy Haslam front loads these contracts. So literally they can swing and miss on Deshaun Watson and still have the same exact roster as everybody else. So if Deshaun just plays to like a mid-tier quarterback, like a 16th, they actually are on paper, they have the most talent. I'm going loss 2-1. Dallas. Thursday night football. Can we get Dallas primetime again at home? LPG. Can we do something at the hotel, like mess with the lights, fire alarm? What can we do?
Come on, man.
We owe these guys.
This ain't Philly. Giants, unfortunately, come away with a loss. Their first loss of the season in the division.
Yeah, I got to go loss too. Beat them one time, so I can say this with some type of evidence that it can happen. Beat them.
You know what? Screw this. I'm coming to this game. Thursday night football. I'm going to be at the tailgate. We're winning this game. It's going to, Dallas is going to walk in thinking their shit don't stink, and we're going to catch them. We're going to catch them. We're going to hit them early. They're going to be scrambling late. It's going to be a close game. And Brian Burns strip sack to win the game when they're driving down to tie it. That's how we're going to win this game, boys. Write this one down. This is what we need. I'm getting goosebumps. All right. Week 5 at Seattle. That game last year, Seattle, the pick 6 basically was the end of the Giants season. Like it was the life. I was at the stadium as a fan just watching, and like the life was sucked out of the stadium. We owe them 2. We're going to Seattle week 5. Joe, what we got?
We're 3-2, too loud, doesn't get it done. Trip killed him going over.
Shit.
Yeah. I think McDonald's going to have that defense all set up. They have 11 good starters. Offensively, I like what they're doing. That's a now. We start off 2-0 and end up 2-3. Just like 2016 though, Joe, or 2017.
17.
Yeah, I'm going loss on this one. That's a tough trip going west.
Yeah.
Seattle's got a very good offense. It's just, I think their offensive line's pretty porous, so I think our D-line can get after them, and that could make a difference, but I see Seattle winning that game. Joe, loudest stadium you've ever been to? You've been to them all. Seattle?
Seattle's up there, but I still can't get the ringing out of my ears in New Orleans. So it's so loud in New Orleans, man.
You're there for an overtime game too.
I'm I'm trying to stop cursing, but fuck New Orleans, man. Come on. That game last year, I played like shit too. We played like shit. Oh, all right. Screw that game. All right, on to Cincinnati at home. Joe Burrow, T. Higgins. I don't know if Jamar Chase is playing football this year.
Yeah, Jamar Chase signed his one penny more, and it doesn't matter. Giants still win the game.
I'm dreading the Daniel Jones on primetime Sunday Night Football graphic. I gotta go L. Cincinnati's too good.
Joe Burrow is a dog. The offensive line is very good. It's not a good matchup for the Giants just because of how good I think the Cincinnati Bengals offense is. I'm going Bengals win that one. I'm starting out 3-3, and then we go to Philadelphia week 7. No, we don't go to. Philadelphia is at MetLife at home.
Yeah, like Bobby said with Dallas, they've shown absolutely nothing to beat the Eagles. I'm going loss.
I'm going W. There's going to be the power of hatred is going to fuel the Giants to a win. The booing is going to be so loud for Saquon Barkley. They did beat them in that last game.
Oh yeah, Saquon's homecoming.
The power of hatred gets the Giants an upset win. They go 3-4.
God, I hope.
I'm very nervous about the Eagles because they imploded from within. It was like a player, coach, everyone turning on each other. They did nothing to address that besides lose their two most veteran leaders, Kelsey and Cox. I think the Eagles regressed this year. They have all the talent in the world. I try to get their content creators to throw the dream team around. They have so much talent, but did they fix what went wrong last year? It wasn't a talent thing. It was like, can we play as a team? And I'm going to be interested to see. I got Giants winning that one. We played them close. We almost beat them Christmas Day in Philly, too. We almost swept them last year. I'm going win there.
You both got a win versus you guys. Got me amped up right now. I love it.
Let's go. All right. Now it's another PA team at Pittsburgh, week 8.
Monday Night Football.
Renegade rolling, beginning of the third quarter. Probably my favorite away stadium theatric.
I'm at 4-4. I don't think they come away with a Monday Night Football win.
Pittsburgh, Russell Wilson.
That's the thing. I don't believe in Pittsburgh offensively at all.
Me neither.
But defensively, they're pretty damn good. You know what? That's a Brian Daboll 2022 surprise win. We're going 4-4. I'm feeling the vibes.
I'm not even stressing this one. I think this is a win all day long. I think we beat the Steelers. Like I don't see that one. Look. Stop TJ Watt. Let's put 2 on him. Jermaine Illuminor, player of the week that week. We're chipping him with Theo Johnson. I think we win that one. Washington, week 9. You already know where I'm going. I have a sweep in the Commanders this year. We win that one. Sweep. Okay, now we're starting to roll. Like that's for me. I got 3 in a row. You guys are a little bit off, but like we got Carolina. Carolina, I think is one of the worst teams in football. Bryce.
Giants don't lose overseas. That's it.
Germany. Schnitzels. We're celebrating. I got us winning. I got us beating Carolina.
But Giants don't lose overseas. Giants are 5-4.
Brian Burns revenge game. Got to win that one.
Oh, love it. Brian Burns revenge game. You got OC over there. He'll be running NFL Europe. Yep. That's gonna be Giants fans. Everyone loves New York City. So the Giants fans, when we played over and played the Rams didn't have any fans. We still had them, even though they were the home team. Giants will have a home field advantage. LPG is going to be recruiting little German kids to come and support. I love that one. All right, now we got a bye. After that, I love the bye week, middle of the season, week 11. Great bye week. We come back, we have Tampa at home.
So I want to ask you, bye week. Everyone thinks bye week's a good thing. I think it's a bad thing. Not for you guys, but it's like coming back from a vacation. I feel like teams lose the game after the bye week.
I think
here's the thing. I'm undefeated in Giants games I've attended. I'm going to the Tampa game. We got to win that one.
So then what are we even talking about?
Exactly.
We all Joe, you have a win?
I definitely have a win.
I got a win there too. So moving on at Dallas, week 13. I'm giving out a lot of wins right now. I got a 5-game win streak going with the bye week there
with my record prediction.
Me too.
I think we're all the same right now anyway. But I don't think going to Dallas on Thanksgiving is going to be too much fun. So I'm at 6.
Yeah, they ruined our Thanksgiving again, unfortunately.
Again.
I'm with you there. We get them in the first one. They're going to be pissed off. Dak's going to be playing for a contract, but like maybe Maybe there's like some turmoil in Dallas. There's a little trouble in paradise. Jerry Jones says some dumb shit and gets his team pissed off. Let's just hope Jerry
We
does
need people to
something.
not watch this game because it was the most viewed regular season game in football 2 years ago, and it's like locked us into having to ruin our Thanksgiving every year.
Oh, no one tune in to the Thanksgiving game. Please just turn it off. All right, we go from Dallas. We all have a loss there to New Orleans. We owe these motherfuckers. I might sign just to play this game and just like take somebody out. I don't even need to start at guard. Just like put me on kickoff. Let me run down there and hit somebody.
I got Justin Pugh's revenge game. I got the Giants winning, and this puts the Giants over the 6.5 Vegas pick. Gives it the 7th win.
With 4 games to go, they're going to get over the 6.5. I have them winning too. I think New Orleans is not a great team, even though they beat us last year. They'll probably put like clips of me letting up a sack, but whatever. I think my boys go down there, or they come to us and we beat them. Worst away stadium of any college or any stadium. Invest some money in your away locker room, New Orleans. All right, sorry, Bobby.
I'm just thinking of all the like. That's the same stadium they used for Katrina, right? Yeah, they
they haven't updated it since.
They really don't. And the area around it, Bobby, is just as bad.
Now I want to go.
Now let's go.
We used to use hot tubs that were trash cans and baby pools when we were there.
Oh, God.
Just awful.
Wait, it's Washington is any better?
How bad is
Washington was
Jacksonville?
pretty bad too, but New Orleans kicked our ass. I just hate them. I hate
What
them.
you do? You got hatred, bro.
I don't hate Jacksonville as much. No, I would say old Oakland Raiders was bad. It was like the baseball stadium. That was awful. And that was the game that Geno Smith started over Eli. So that was a really bad game in my memory.
Yep.
Chargers. We played out of the Chargers. Didn't like that stadium. I will say this, Dallas. Shout out to Dallas. You have the best away stadium. And then Minnesota.
It's funny you say that as a player because it's my favorite stadium to go to every single year. I just think, Jerry Jones does it right. I mean, you could put MetLife almost inside of AT&T. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. We hate to say it. You know what? I did like the Dallas guys. The Dallas Cowboys fans were actually pleasant to talk to because they aren't as crazy as you think they are. Jay Tuck and Vach and those guys and Cowboys fan talk. Those guys were solid guests.
I like Vach.
No
Vach
comment,
is my guy.
no
I like
comment
Vach.
from you guys. No comment. All right. Moving on. We beat New Orleans week 14. Exceed all expectations. Then we got Baltimore coming into the building. Lamar Jackson
has only lost to one NFC team in his career. It happens to be the New York Giants, but it also was Wink Martindale. There's some familiarity there. Ravens win.
Yeah, I'm going with a loss as well. 7-7.
I'm going Ravens win as well. All right, now we come back to Atlanta. I haven't played in the stadium, but I heard it's amazing.
It's gorgeous.
We go down to Atlanta, week 16. They got Kirk. They just signed. They got Matthew Judon, who doesn't have a contract yet, which is weird. They signed Justin Simmons. They got a squad down there. Their offensive line is sneakily one of the best in the league. Where does Atlanta stand on your books, Joe?
No, Giants win this game in Atlanta. 8-7.
Here, I'm looking at the last 2 games to make sure. I'll go.
Yeah, you're trying to back into what the record needs. Like, 'cause you don't want to be 13-4 right now.
I have bad memories of Atlanta from that 2021 game, which is the most angry the fan base has been outside of the Geno Smith game. I'm gonna go L.
Supposed to have good memories. Supposed to have good memories. Cruz, Hakeem Nicks. Supposed to have good memories.
This is one of the ones where, like, I think the Giants are going to be very competitive in it. But, like, I have so many wins right now. I got to, like, kind of, like, if I keep this up, we're 12-5. So I'm going lost by default here because I had to back into my record somewhere. So I'm going lost in Atlanta.
Down both you. Let's go.
I got a loss in Atlanta. Come home against Indianapolis. I don't think Anthony Richardson is going to stay healthy the way he's been playing all year. Unfortunately, I think he's a stud quarterback, but I don't know where Indy's going to be towards the end of the season. I think that could be one of those games where it's a backup quarterback. It's Joe Flacco. It's Indianapolis. So I got the Giants winning.
I got to win too.
So
we did it on our Football Today show. We did a low key team that could maybe get the number 1 pick. The Colts are mine. They're a team they're just 1 year away from finishing a season 1-10. And like you mentioned, like Richardson has gotten hurt every single year. I got to win there too.
He'll be hurt again,
Yeah.
and the backup quarterback will get it done. And the Giants are going through the season at 500 again, 8-8.
Joe Flacco. You got Joe Flacco coming into MetLife breaking hearts.
Completely, Giants just fall apart. It's one of those ones where you get up the next morning, everybody's on a podcast. Everybody wants to burn New York City.
We'll be back on this podcast talking about that game.
Exactly.
All right, now we have Philly at Philly, week 18. We always end with Philly for whatever reason. I hate it. What happens in Philadelphia, Joe?
You guys both took the Giants a win at home against the Eagles. I'm going to win away. That's only because they rested everybody, and here we go again. And the Giants finish off with their 9th win. And I've been picking 9 and 10 wins for a long time now, and I'm sticking with my 9 here.
Yeah, I can't predict a sweep over Philly, so I'm going loss, and my Giants finish at 8 and 9.
I'm going loss as well on this one because I actually think Philly's going to have to win this game to get into the playoffs. I got Philly at 10 and 7 as well.
Wow.
And I think I think Dallas wins the NFC East. As much as I hate to say it, I had them. I just think regular season Cowboys are an amazing team. They're going to get shellacked in the playoffs again. I have zero faith in them in the playoffs, but they bring back everybody in terms of like Dak, CD, Micah. I think they're going to be a tough out. But I got the Giants sneaking into the wild card here. I got them at 10 and 7. Philly's got to win this one as well to get in. I think we put 3 NFC East teams into the playoffs this year. NFC South is garbage. I don't think they're going to put anyone in. NFC North, everyone's riding high, but rookie quarterbacks. Minnesota, I'm not feeling it. Green Bay, everyone thinks they're this unstoppable team. I think they regress. So I got 3 NFC East teams in the playoffs.
Just like 2022. Let's get ourselves a favorable matchup and win.
Yep, I'm down with it.
All right, guys. This has been amazing. Look, you guys have the best fan base, changed my life. Part of the reason I come back is how passionate the New York Giants fans are. I want to make sure you guys get your shine because without you, none of this shit is possible. LPG, I don't know how many license plates we're up to now or what the jersey. What jersey are we going? Can you say for week 1 just yet? Do we know what jersey?
I definitely don't say, but I think we're gonna. I
bet you it's gonna be neighbors
it's in there
related.
somewhere.
It's gonna be Daniel Jones related. Start the season off right.
Okay.
Let's go.
It could be a Jones front and a neighbor's back, Bobby.
Jones and the neighbor.
That's the 1-2 punch we're looking for.
Jones in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Jones in the neighborhood. I love it. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on. Everybody follow these guys. License plate guy, Joe. He does so many great things in the community. Bobby, talking Giants versus everybody, right?
Versus the world.
Versus the whole world. The most loyal listeners. I'm telling you, they're in the comments everywhere. That's the Beehive. You don't mess with them. Give us a little shout out for your show. When do you guys put it out? Like, I want everyone going and showing some love to you.
Now that the season starts, we'll be going Monday recap, Wednesday mailbag, Friday preview. 3 days a week. O-line report Tuesday, film review Tuesday. We're going to be cranking shit out. So I'm excited for it. Let's win some games.
Let's win some games. Let's have some positive conversations to talk about. I will see you guys at some Giants games. We'll be out in the tailgate. I posted a one-on-one with me and my little nephew. Not my little nephew, my little cousin. And I just get some reps in, A team called me right after, a team that we actually mentioned today that I probably won't go to unless they completely overpay. I might do some one-on. No. But I would never sign with the Saints. I turned them down last year. But I think I'm going to have to do some one-on-ones. Joe, can you play quarterback? Bobby, I need you to play left tackle.
You can't trust me on the blind side.
Right?
Let me play right tackle at least.
All right, fine. You're right tackle. I'm left guard. Joe, we need you to play quarterback. We're going to do one-on-ones in the parking lot.
We could just beat the shit out of Justin. How about that? Panic,
we're not going
not
to
you.
the beach. We're not going to the beach? Damn.
No, we're going to the Meadowlands. We're going to the swamps, man. We're going
to the
5
swamps,
minutes from the beach
Look,
if you guys ever want to come to Cocoa Beach.
I know you are. Hey, Justin, all kidding aside, you've taken over this podcast stuff. You're doing a great job. I really hope you get one more call and you make it a thing, man. Good luck.
Well, you know I love the New York Giants, man. At the end of the day, I'm a New York Giants fan. So this one is a team that gave me my shot. The Giants changed my life. So I am forever indebted to the organization. And a lot of teams throw out the once a whatever, always a whatever. I truly embody the once a Giant, always a Giant. So I'll be repping proudly. I want to make this fan base a little bit happier, and you guys do that every day. So let's continue to spread a little Giants optimism out there. Adriana, I thank you for being on as well. She was great. I know she had to hop a flight.
Good luck in New Orleans,
again,
man.
Guys. I'll talk to you guys later. Go Giants, baby.